Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Yao Tong. Today, I will present Discrimination, Stress, and Substance Use, a serial mediation of caffeine and tobacco. Um, First, let's talk about theoretical frameworks for my study. The stress process model posits that exposure to social stressors, such as discrimination, could elevate psychological distress, which then could influence health behaviors and outcome. Secondly, we have coping and self-medication theory, which posits that individuals cope with negative affect or arousal by using substances that provide short-term relief or stimulation. So heightened perceived stress could encourage caffeine consumption as a stimulant to combat fatigue and improve mood, fitting the self-medication mechanism. Third, we have the stimulant nicotine co-use framework, which says that caffeine and nicotine are often co-used because caffeine enhances alertness and nicotine could augment or counteract caffeine's physiological effects. That means increased caffeine use could raise the probability of tobacco use, completing the chain. Therefore, taken all together, these theories predict a pathway from discrimination to perceived stress to caffeine use and then to tobacco use. Then let's talk about methods. So we analyzed the Promoting Young Adult Health Survey, which is a cross-sectional data set of 1573 participants aged 18 to 25, recruited via the Quadric Survey panel in 2022. Discrimination was measured with the Intersectional Discrimination Index. Stress used the perceived stress scale 10. Caffeine score was the average daily intake across 6 caffeinated products. Tobacco use captured any cigarette use in the past 30 days. And we also have covariates, age measured in years and sex measured as a dichotomous variable. Here are some key sample characteristics. So mean perceived stress was around 30 with a range from 10 to 50. Caffeine score averaged 5.6 drinks per day with a range from 0 to 30. Mean age was around 22 years with a range from 18 to 25. Discrimination averaged about 25 with a range from 9 to 45. The sample was 52% female. Here's the conceptual path diagram for my study as supported by series. So the indirect pathway goes from discrimination to perceived stress to caffeine consumption and then to tobacco use, as indicated by the A, D, and B above the arrows. The direct pathway goes from discrimination directly to tobacco use, as demonstrated by the C. Covariates are represented by dashed lines and were controlled for in all mediation pathways. So here are some key results. As we can see, the indirect effects from discrimination to caffeine consumption via perceived stress is the product of A and D, which is 0.015. And then from discrimination to tobacco use via PSS, then through caffeine use, is the product of A and D and B, which is 0.001 approximately. So our total effect is a sum of direct and indirect effects, which sums up to 0.033. And our proportion mediated is just 0.001 divided by 0.033, which is around 2.44%. It is tiny, but significant partial mediation. So our results support our theory. Discrimination significantly increased perceived stress, and higher stress led to more caffeine consumption. Higher caffeine use predicted greater likelihood of tobacco use. And the serial indirect effect from discrimination to stress to caffeine to tobacco was significant but small. So the direct effect of discrimination on tobacco use remained very strong, indicating partial mediation. Our covariates behaved as expected. So age is not related to stress, but older participants consumed more caffeine and were more likely to use tobacco. Sex, so in terms of males, they reported lower stress but higher tobacco use with no significant difference in caffeine intake. So our next steps could include adding other mediators such as coping styles, sleep disturbance, or depressive symptoms, or testing moderation by race, ethnicity, gender identity, or social support. Thank you very much for listening.